So I would like to introduce Veleka Gray, and Veleka has shared the stage or the screen. Um, you know, I'm going to embarrass myself because I don't even know how to pronounce this woman's name. Help me out with this, Veleka. Her last name is Weaver, and it starts with
Sigourney. Sigourney.
Okay. Well, I don't watch a lot of television, so some of these names don't really get me, but I do. Ted Danson, I recognize that name. Elliot Gould, I recognize that name. Jack Kennedy, or I mean Cassidy. Uh, Margaret Collins. I mean, these are wonderful people to have shared the stage with, and Veleka starred on television for 20 years, 15 of which were in daytime dramas. 4 were on CBS and 2 were on NBC. She got her start as a columnist and feature writer with Soap Opera Digest and other fan magazines. She left her last show, The Young and the Restless, to take up writing and teaching acting as an adjunct professor for 6 years at a college in Chicago. Then she returned to her hometown of New Orleans and became active in the Romance Writers of America until she started making movies with her acting students to give them real world experience in how to act for camera. In her spare time, she narrates both fiction and nonfiction audiobooks for Amazon. And we will be putting her link in the chat. There's a link there that is specifically for audiobooks, but I'm sure you can get in touch with her through there for anything else that you might want. So, Veleka, thank you very much for joining us today. And we're going to talk a little bit about how we can immerse ourselves as authors into our characters to make them more authentic. I keep saying more authentic. That is kind of like an oxymoron. You're either authentic or you're not. So, Veleka, tell us a little bit how acting and writing, when it comes to character develop, kind of goes together.
It's interesting, Paula, because, and hi, everybody. I'm so glad to be here with you today. Um, just to give you a little background on where I'm coming from, as we used to say in the 60s, I came into the world having one big question, which is, what am I here for? What is the purpose of my life? What is my fate, destiny, whatever? And it took a very, very, very long time. I haven't even finished yet, trying to find out who I am, why I'm here, um, what God wants of me, what I can do to make my life matter to the world. And something I was reading right before Paula brought us in was something in a Chinese book called the I Ching, hexagram 55, having to do with reuniting. Each one of the little chapters in the I Ching is about some passage of life. And it said the social responsibility of the artist, that's us, is to reunite our societies with their humanity, which I think we really need a lot. And as writers, you may have already realized how much your work can impact people for good or for ill, and hopefully for good. So the way I, as a writer and an actor and a teacher, the way I finally realized this was the union of the arts, creative people who are able to understand the point of view of other people in the arts, specifically film, which is my background, gives you a greater understanding of humanity. Of I'm trying not to lose my train of thought here. If you let me go back to what Paula just said. If you understand the craft of acting, you learn how to remove your own ego self, put it over there, and allow the character, like a child, to be born through you, which is a remarkable feeling and feels really good, by the way, not like real childbirth. And through that experience, you walk a mile in another man's moccasins. You're able to understand what it's like. If we take those of you who've seen The Silence of the Lambs, Anthony Hopkins playing the cannibal Hannibal Lecter, for instance. But he also played a very saintly doctor a few years before that in The Elephant Man. And what happens to actors, great actors like Anthony Hopkins and other great actors, is that through this experience of living so many lives in one life, they get a really profound comprehension of the human condition. And I think all of us can use that. So a lot of people who come into my acting classes have come in, writers, directors, the psychologist came in for a while, teachers. They're looking for a way to expand their awareness of life. And again, like me, trying to find a way that their lives can matter. Did I answer that effectively enough, Paula?
Well, I think so. The point you're getting at is that if we immerse ourselves into our characters and let the characters speak through us, like they're flowing through us, um, not only are they authentic in how they act on the page, but it helps us in our human condition. Is
And to
that
and to write it. One of the writers that I'm putting together a class, if anybody's interested, I'm just going to say it now, of actors and writers so that the writers can understand the art of acting and become their characters, whatever they're writing, in a place where they can test it out, road test your character. And actors and like Gabrielle, the writer who just was in my class, had a wonderful actress that she was having read parts of her screenplay. And she said later that Gabrielle said that she hadn't understood what it was like reading it in her mind to what it was like when her character came alive through a gifted actress. And she was fascinated by what she learned about um, her character, her writing, how to change things, makes them better. It reminds me of when I think it was Dolly Parton who wrote that amazing song, "I Will Always Love You," and it was sung in the movie The Bodyguard by
Whitney
help
Houston?
pardon. Yes,
Whitney
yes,
Houston.
did an extraordinary job, and it blew Dolly Parton's mind how amazing the song was when she had sung it herself. Somehow things are small if you don't expand out and share your work one way or another. I really think that until I was published, in my case, it was articles and stories and stuff like that. Keeping stuff just locked inside of your head, it's got to come out. It's a child. It has to be born. It has to be shared. And
So
through
that almost sounds as if we need to get together and act out our parts. I mean,
yeah,
that's a little bit
yes,
difficult to do, but I mean, maybe it isn't difficult to do, but I saw where you were in a Zoom with two actors. You posted that the other day.
yes,
Um, and I had never thought about, oh, gee whiz, you can get together on Zoom and do acting.
absolutely. And uh, um, I feel such a responsibility right now, Paula, to communicate this because it's a recent understanding of mine how we can work hand in hand and help each other. The thing is, whether the actors, like I was 10 years, uh, every week at our Romance Writers of America um, meetings in New Orleans, and was it every week or every month? I can't remember what the schedule was, but the point was I was very, very involved in that. And one day, the president at the time said, "Because you're an actress, can you give us pointers?" Which is what I shared with you, Paula. And
Hmm.
getting the writers up there, and they were improvising what their characters might do with another person and getting that real world feedback from people that was very surprising. I didn't know my character would do that. I didn't know my character would feel that way. But it's basically what I'm trying to say here is it's got to get out of your head. It's got to get into the world.
You know, what I'm hearing from this, and anybody else can chime in if they want to. What I'm hearing from this is that for the characters to be alive on the stage, we as the authors have to actually feel what they're going through, the frustrations they have, the anger that they have, the heartfelt love that they in the character arc get to, um, feeling what their wound is or what their flaw is when they start out, of why they don't feel that they deserve love or can feel love. And is that kind of where you're getting at? In order to not have a flat character, that we really have to get more emotionally involved with them?
I think so because I know that myself as a writer, too often I get stuck in my head and I'll imagine something that isn't it's just in my head. It never becomes emotional. So acting something out almost forces you to feel it and to hopefully feel compassion. I mentioned to you, Paula, that I've studied with Robert McKee now since 1990 or whatever. I don't know if the rest of you guys know him, but he's a famous screenplay author, teacher, and one of the things he was talking about, um, oh my God, there's so many things he was talking about. Let me take it back a step. Please repeat for me, Paula, what you just said, so I'll get back on my train of thought.
About us having to feel the emotion of our characters so that they're not flat.
Yes, yes. But basically, it has to do with compassion. For what McKee was saying was your characters are your babies. So whether it's your villain, he said, how can you hate your villain? It's your child. You created them, or whatever character you have. Sometimes authors won't like a character, or
That,
they'll
that's very true, and I think that you can tell when when an author doesn't like a character that they have created.
I
And
yeah,
I agree with you that we need to like our villains. One thing that I'm sorry, I'm going to kind of like go off to the side here. One thing that irritates me sometimes when I'm reading a novel is that when a villain is a villain, either because it turns out toward the end that they're crazy, or it turns out that they're just a plain evil person. And I don't agree with that, because I don't think that there are necessarily villains have motivations. There's something that motivates them to act the way they do, and it's not necessarily that they're insane or that they're just an evil person. They have a perception of life, and we need to see that perception to be able to help make that person authentic and actually like our villain as a result.
it's
Sorry,
interesting you
I
saying
threw that in.
that. No, that's great because what it reminded me of was I worked it for 2 years at San Quentin Prison in San Francisco. I don't know if I mentioned that to you, Paula, but what was interesting to me, what I was doing was working in the reentry program with the inmates, trying to help them discard their prison behavior, and which is they're also paranoid and with good reason, so that they could, when they were able to go, they'd serve their time, they were able to go back into society, that they were able to get work. And so I was teaching them a kind of personal presentation, how to get a job course. And when I talked to them in the breaks, when back then I was smoking, and we'd go have a cigarette together and stuff, every single man I worked with was not guilty. He had been convicted, but in his own mind, whatever it was he did was justified in every single case. And
So and that definitely speaks to motivation, doesn't it?
well, it was very hard for them to see any other perspective but their own. The justice, the judges, whatever, those people were idiots. And so again, back to writers and the social responsibility of the artist. through our understanding our characters, moving through them with our hearts, um, trying to really grasp what they're experiencing in life from enough, you can feel something and still be objective. You don't have to like I remember somebody asked the actress Jennifer Lawrence, "Oh my God, it's so terrible what you suffer in every film you do." And she says, "I don't suffer. The characters suffer. I don't suffer." And this is part of what I was saying a minute ago. When you're performing, when you're acting properly, you leave yourself in the green room and you let the character come through you, and it's fun. It's so much fun when you're doing it that way. So back to what we were just saying. So when you've got a character who's I have to tell you guys, I used to have an advice column, Soap Opera Digest. That was the first thing I had before I started writing the articles on actors. And the number one question I got over and over and over from the fans was, how do I get him away from her? Over and over and over again. I'm in love with the guy. He's married. I want him for myself. And it and if you think about it, especially if you're old enough to really see the ramifications here, the in unbelievable sensitivity to destroying another person's home, their life, what's going to happen to their, they just didn't get it. It was like the guys in San Quentin, totally self-absorbed in some sort of cocoon or something where they were blind to reality.
Yeah.
Excuse me, Dave. Dave, will you please mute yourself? I'm going to see if I can mute everybody and then unmute you. I don't mean to interrupt you, but
Well, that's fine.
yeah, I know that there's some way I can mute people, and I so rarely have to do it. Um,
There, he did it himself.
okay, great. Thank you. Thank you, Dave. Okay, go ahead, Veleka.
Can you remind me of where I was? Can anybody tell me?
Yeah. I'm sorry. I got diverted in my mind
That
also.
the people were so absorbed, the individuals from San Quentin and the other individuals you were talking about were so absorbed into their own worldview that they couldn't see what they were doing to other people's lives.
Thank you, Sonia. Did I
You're
pronounce
welcome.
it right?
Yes, you did. Thank you.
Oh, good. Okay. Yes. So I don't care whether the artist is a writer, a composer, an actor, whatever. We have to delve deep into character. And I found the best way to do that has been to dive deeply into my character through getting to know who I am. In fact, those of you who know anything about ancient gods and goddesses and stuff, I was a Latin major in college. Apollo had a temple at Delphi, and he wrote the laws on the temple. And the very first law was know thyself. And I think of it as like that thing, it takes a thief to catch a thief. How are you really going to understand the motivations of a character if you have not experienced it yourself? And how are you going to be able to write it in an objective way so that other people can comprehend, really get what that character is feeling, doing, meaning, wanting, etc., if you haven't moved beyond whatever it is yourself? Which is why I think that most writers need to be older.
Yeah. Veleka, I just had what I think is a brilliant idea. I don't know if it's so brilliant or not, but if anybody has some of their manuscript in front of them, perhaps we could act out
Yes, that would
a
be great.
character. Would anybody like to volunteer to act out, a short passage from one of their characters?
It would be get two people who could be in a scene.
Or even if it isn't from a real manuscript, we could just do this, I suppose, ad lib it, I guess is what it's called, right?
Improvise if you're an actor.
Improvise. Thank you very much. I'm willing to give it a try if somebody else wants to volunteer to assist me.
Is somebody willing to, I'll give you guys the scenario. If someone's willing to work with Paula, can I have a brave volunteer?
Let me see. Marta's not muted and neither is Jade. Maybe we
Okay.
need.
Hi. What
Hi,
is it?
Marta. How are you?
Hi, you guys. You're so good. Thank you. So anyway, so what did you need a volunteer for? I'm sorry.
What we're
just
gonna
wasn't
do,
sure.
Marta, if you're willing, is I'm gonna give you and Paula a scenario,
Okay.
and you guys are going to act it out.
Okay.
Just a brief improvisation. So if you're okay, here's the situation. Here's the setting. You ladies are both. I'm going to use the one I did with the writer. She was so impressed with this. Okay, you guys are both in a department store, and if there's a sale going on, and Marta, you have accumulated in front of yourself a bunch of things that you're ready to buy. And Paula, I want you to come in, take one of the things she's got in front of her. You decide whatever it is. And then Marta, as soon as you see Paula, take your, and just, Paula, just take your hand and just reach like that, you know, so she can see some action, some movement. Reach and take it. And then Marta, it's like, excuse me, who are you? What are you doing? That's
Okay.
mine.
I've
Okay.
got it. I like this.
All right.
Okay, Marta, we are in a department store lingerie section. I mean, we're romance people, right? And
Yeah.
you have the cutest bustier that you're going to purchase. And it's like in my color. And it's like, oh my gosh, look at that bustier. Isn't that so beautiful? That would look so great on me. And I think my husband is just going to absolutely go gaga over it. I have to have this. You don't really need it, do you?
No. No.
No, Marta,
But I just have to have it. Yeah.
wait, fight back, fight back. This is a cat fight.
Okay.
Okay, go get her. Don't let her get away with that, Marta.
I
Okay.
really need this, and you really don't, do you?
Yes, I do. Excuse me, please. It took me a long time to find it in the store, and it was by sheer accident that I found exactly the one I wanted. And I
But
tried it on and everything.
I have an anniversary coming up. I have an anniversary coming up. I am not really too sure that he's been, completely faithful to me. Maybe he has. I think he has, but I think he's got a wandering eye. This will keep him interested in me again.
You're fooling yourself. If he's like that, if he's that kind of a man, you're fooling yourself, lady. Okay? The
Well,
best thing you can
say
do,
that? Who are you to say that to me?
because it's obvious. It would be obvious to anybody. If you think he's fooling on you, he probably is fooling on you. So this is not going to help you. I'm going to just go ahead and pay for it because I already have it in the register, in front of the register, and I'm not surrendering it because my husband is not fooling around on me.
Well, well,
What can I say?
That was, give her a hand.
Tough
That
titty.
was really good, guys. It was. It was. And and I hope you both were experiencing while you were doing it. There's a part of you, the witness self, that's watching it, right? Watching what you're doing, watching what the other person's doing. And did Marta, was that fun?
Yeah, it was fun.
well, I want you to know I feel a little bit insulted about you saying that my husband obviously is fooling around if I think he is.
Actually, in reality, I think probably what I would do is feel sorry for you and just give it to you and say, you know what, just take it. Because my husband is not fooling around on me. If he was, he doesn't deserve me wearing a bustier. But hitting him with a pen over the head.
But I really understand what Veleka is talking about because just going through that exercise, I really did start to feel that you had kind of like, well, who are you to talk to me that way?
I know.
Actually, all that's so wonderful. All the stuff comes up, and the stuff that normally we keep hidden. We're all supposed to. It's necessary for us to be considerate of one another and polite. Our parents raised us that way to share, which I always hated doing. It's mine, whatever. But but having the experience and observing yourself having the experience makes you conscious of the experience.
So
That's
how do you work with writers, with authors when they are taking your online acting class? I mean, do they actually bring their characters and manuscript to you?
they do, and usually it's a problem. Like I have this character. Here's an example. I have this character. I don't know why I have this character. I don't know what it's all about. I don't know what I was thinking. Usually I go back to a woman named Julia Cameron. I don't know how many of you guys have heard of Julia. She wrote a book called The Artist's Way, but I had a chance to interact with her some years ago, right after the book came out, and asked her that very question. And she said something I'll never forget because I found it to be true. She says, the book knows where it's going. I'm like, huh? Okay. But it really does. If you follow, there is a life to your
You
work.
froze, Veleka. Are you still
Sorry.
there?
I'm here. Hello.
I know what you mean by that because that's why I have arguments with my characters.
Yes. So what happens is it's a workshop. It's not something where people are rating your work. It's not about that at all. It's about bringing a situation. If I put John and Rose together, will this work? Will the chemistry be right? If I try if I kill off this character, how will that impact the whole? I've studied so many writing teachers. I do it constantly. I'm studying, writing, and whether it's a situation with what Marta and Paula were just doing for us, showing a scene of conflict. Will that scene that they just did, which was fun for me to watch, will it work? Will it work in a story? Or is it redundant? Most writers are trying to figure out, after they've got the mass of their work there, what to keep, what to quit, something that's bothering them that they want to work on. And in the case of Gabrielle, the woman who was in my last class, she's a very fine writer, extremely good writer. And she didn't realize until she had this actor, they were doing the scene together, playing the character. Gabrielle was reading the character that she identified with personally, and the other girl was reading another role. And she didn't realize until they did this together anything really about the other character. She'd been focused so much on her heroine that she wasn't giving enough life or credence, whatever, to other characters. They were like props.
That's really an important thing. I mean, yeah, I think we can all fall into that a little bit of, we fall in love with our hero and our heroine and don't really think about the other characters well enough to flesh them out, and they become flat. And it's a little bit difficult to have a well-rounded novel if some of the characters are flat. So that's a really important point that you made, Veleka.
And you can do it yourself. One of the things, there's something called voice dialogue that came out in the 70s. The Sidra Stone and her husband, I can't remember his name, but this is something I have my actors do very often. Especially, they'll say, they don't have a scene partner, so read both parts. So it goes something like this. Let me see. I'm not interested in being married to you, Rhett. I don't want to ever get married again. Well, my Scarlett, all you've ever known is an old man and a young man. I have a way with women. I think you'd like being married to me. So you go this side, that side, turn, and let these characters speak through you like you're a ventriloquist or something. Are you with us, Paula? It looks like
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I was kind of going through the chat. I think that if I understood you correctly when we were talking the other day, you're developing or maybe it's already developed. I know that you have classes already, but it seems to me that you were talking about maybe doing a one class, one time thing to give people an idea of whether or not they would benefit, how they would benefit. And I think that you have a reduced price on that. Is that correct?
I do. At the moment, instead of $200, it's $97, whatever. I'm more interested. I mean, obviously, I have to eat and pay my rent and everything, but I'm more interested in developing a different consciousness in the people I work with, because that thing John Kennedy said, a tide lifts all boats.
Mm-hmm.
So if all of us are raising our consciousness, raising our work, what we're contributing to the world, I'm
Mm-hmm.
very interested in that. And I noticed that myself, working as a casting director, working as a director of film and theater, working as an actor, working as a singer, working as a teacher. I was never a dancer, so we can pass on that. But
But then you also had to judge other people too in the Academy Awards.
that's true. I did. 15 years I worked as one of the finalist judges. There were only 10 of us, believe it or not, who decided whether or not Susan Lucci won the award for Best Actress. And that poor girl was put through the mill of having to keep trying for 18 years or something.
Oh my goodness.
It was
So,
terrible. But
so your class is a 2 hour class, is that correct?
I usually ask people what they want, honestly.
Okay.
I'm all about, what do you need? So if it's 2 hours, great. 3 hours, great. Generally speaking, the classes take a little longer the more people that are in them. If it's just a few people, 2 hours. If there's more than 10 people, 3 hours, like that.
Okay. Okay. And people can get in touch with you if they're interested in participating in that.
Absolutely. I'd love to do that. Um,
And you're in our Facebook group. So people could DM you in the Facebook group, or they could I put something in the chat. I think that had more to do with audio, but they could get to you through there. Is that correct?
yes. One of the good things about having retired now, and this is all I do, is I'm available. I'm available for people who need private help, who want someone with my experience who can help them see. I've judged a lot of contests. My favorite one was the Daphne du Maurier contest um, through Romance Writers of America, and I can see the issues. I can see where sometimes I think it's easier to see the challenges in somebody else's work than your own. You're,
Very definitely.
but
Very,
I can I
very
can
definitely.
I can see it. My friends, I often edit their work. Um, Whatever can be helpful.
Okay. Okay. Well, I'll tell you, when you get a date, and I don't know if it sounds to me as if that you will accommodate, different people, of whatever works for them. Um, I would love to be in that class also.
But that would be great. Yeah, I'm not on the soaps anymore. I don't have a day job anymore. I adore teaching. It's, I think because one of the things about having an extensive show business career is I didn't have children. And so this is my children. You're my children, whatever.
Okay.
And it really feels like that. Like little chickens, come, we will do this
Yeah.
together. Um,
Okay. So you narrate audiobooks also, is that correct?
because I'm no longer acting on shows like before, I began to miss it.
Ah,
And friends of mine who narrate audiobooks. I'm trying to see if I can remember any names here. Erica, who lives in my neighborhood where I live in the New Orleans area. She's a famous writer, and she was telling me that she had been looking for narrators, and what's that? Well, when you listen to audiobooks. So I got into it in 2015, and again, I don't know if you guys are interested in that, but it's so much fun. You live all the characters, and and it's so funny. Just today, I was listening to a singer who shall be nameless because I really don't like her work. And I was wondering why I didn't like her. And I was thinking about Joe Stafford. I don't know if any of y'all are old enough to remember Joe Stafford, but she was one of my favorite romance singers, love songs. And I found out what it was. The singer I don't like, she's all about making pretty sounds, and she loves her own voice, and you could tell that she's just totally into herself. Whereas singers like Joe Stafford, Doris Day, the ones I grew up with, they are singing for us. And I think it's the same with your writing, your acting, whatever you're doing. Yeah, if you want to do something for yourself, it's a avocation, fine. But I do believe if you're going to give something to the world, that it should be to consider that you're doing something for the benefit of society, because if you put it out there, you're making a difference.
absolutely. Okay, I'll tell you, we're kind of winding down on our time. So why don't we open this up if anybody has any questions for you, Veleka? I'm quite sure that um, there must be some questions out there. I've tried to ask what I have, but go ahead, Kim.
Are there any secret ingredients to writing attraction?
I know what other romance writers have told me, and they usually use their husbands and experiment on them. I think for myself, I have a very strong imagination, and if I can put on the right music that puts me into a mood, especially something from when I was growing up. Most of the music I loved the most were 70s music, but for you, it might be 80s or 90s or whatever. But if I put on something that takes me back in time, especially a time when I was in love, like when I first met my husband, stuff like that. Let's see, Cast Your Fate to the Wind. I can remember distinctly with that song, the bar that we went to, and just, it's like anything else. You put yourself in a mood. Have you tried that, Kim?
I definitely live through my characters, and it's all based on my own experience, because I write historicals, but people's emotions don't change. Times may change, but the way people react to each other doesn't change.
Exactly. From any culture, it's true. And being able to, this is something I was trying to explain to my acting class last night, how you have to, let's see, trying to find the words that I was telling them. Have something specific, but not too specific. One of the actors they were practicing doing commercials for radio, and he was making up his own, and he said, well, I'm trying to remember exactly what he said, but it was something like, I'll just make something up. I love the color purple. Okay. In my team's school colors. Well, if I didn't have a team or school colors or whatever, that would make me feel disconnected. I wouldn't be able to relate to that. I know in acting we steal. If I see an actress like Meryl Streep do something wonderful, I'll do it. They won't know I stole it from her, because it'll be coming from me.
Okay, if we're done, if there's no more questions, I will thank you very much, Veleka. I appreciate you coming. Please let us know in the group when you have either a date fixed for this thing, or anybody who's interested, make sure that you get in touch with Veleka so that she can find out when you're available, so she can, it sounds to me as if you're very flexible there about making sure that you're available for when people are available. And I appreciate that. And definitely put me on that list because I want to be there.
I wish all of you guys would join me on Facebook, and so we can stay in touch. And one other thing I wanted to say, Paula, was in a workshop, one of the best things I've done with, I don't know what happens with you guys, but one of the best things I've done with actors is when you're able to do a workshop and get to know people, they become friends, they can become partners, they can network with you, help you with whatever, besides just like the kind of work I do. But please friend me. It's been wonderful talking to you guys today. And I hope
thank you very much. All right. Okay, everybody. Thank you so much.